Alrighty, welcome back to the big show. Jamel Hartman here. It's the Daily Hour brought to you by the BAC Group of Companies, Medical House, Lindos, and People's Pharmacy. Please don't forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. I just want to say before we bring the commission in, so obviously many of us follow the news throughout the world, and it seems last night there was a very tragic incident in the Potomac as an aircraft and a Black Hawk helicopter collided in the air and landed in the Potomac. It looks like 60 people who were on the American Airlines flight are reportedly deceased. So, Bermudians, we love to travel, and that's the one thing you don't want to think about. Very, very sad for the families. And I know people are saying how insensitive the media can be during this, times like this. But I think the media's job is really to try to find out what happened for you, get answers and the like. But very sad to read things like that as you fall asleep or you wake up. And, you really hope that people are okay. But unfortunately, it looks like there has been a lot of casualties, mass casualties that have taken place. So sending warm and loving thoughts to those impacted by that incident. All right, without further ado, let's bring in our guest for the day. We've got the Commissioner of the Bermuda Police Service, Darrin Simons. Let's give him a warm TDH welcome. Greetings, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Jamel. Good morning to your listening audience.
How are you?
I'm hanging tough, as they say. It's a nice early start to the day. Start the day with a little bit of time with you rather than a whole bunch of emails. It couldn't be better.
There you go. And I'm pretty sure, unlike Maya, because she's cold, you even enjoyed a joke or two you may have heard, I hope.
I did enjoy the joke. I mean, I think it could use a little work, a little polish. Yeah, okay. but it's a good first foot forward.
I'm going to the comedy club and audition and hopefully get a coach for my delivery. That's what
don't quit your day job.
So diplomatic. Before we jump into today's conversation, though, Commissioner, it's days of the year. It's escape. What do you do to escape? Like, you have one of the hardest jobs in the country. What do you do to escape? Like, when you just need time away, or from emails, from everything.
Just completely shut down, relax, read. I don't even necessarily like watch social media or stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Just disconnect and recharge. I do enjoy reading. Science fiction kind of stuff. So I'll just put my feet up on the couch. Sometimes listen to music. Go for a walk is nice.
Yeah.
But I haven't done that in a little while, and I keep telling myself I've got to get back out there for my morning, my what used to be routine morning walks.
And Commissioner, you can't use Maya's excuse about black ice and snow and stuff like that.
No, I can't. I can't. But for the past couple of weeks, it has been very wet, windy, and cold, Bermuda style. Because it's nothing like the Hawk.
That's true. You take me back to Regiment Recruit Camp, man. January, first, second week of January. Those are some times. But again, thank you for joining us. As we get into the conversation today, I think it's important for us to self-reflect as a community on the kind of year we had in so many aspects. So we're grateful to the Bermuda Police Service for coming on the past few Januaries and speaking to us about the previous year. But let's start with, violent crime as far as murders. I know that there was a period after Bermuda Day last year where there was it seemed like a high number of murders in Bermuda over the span of a two-month period. How many murders did Bermuda end up having in 2024? And how many people have been charged to date for those murders?
Okay, so there were 9 murders in 2024. 4 of those murders happened 3 of those murders and a death happened in one incident, but the additional death is not a murder. To date, we haven't charged anyone, but we're obviously making progress in those cases. And again, I sort of take this opportunity, if you have any information about any of the serious crimes that have occurred in Bermuda, to come forward and contact the police. I mean, you've got the confidential Crime Stoppers numbers. Everyone knows a cop. If you know one, speak to one. So, definitely help us to solve these murders, because it really does take, unless there's obvious forensic evidence at the scene that leads to charging and conviction, it almost always, in fact, it always takes members of the community to come forward and say what they've seen, say what they know.
Yeah. In private conversations, I've obviously people have a lot of opinions, and you have people that would say, look, the reason this keeps happening is because people don't think there's going to be consequences, because people aren't being charged. But you just stated what people can do. Is there another approach based on, of the murders last year? No one's been charged. Is there other approaches? And you don't have to say what, but other approaches being considered? Because is it more cameras? I know a couple of years ago we were talking about more CCTV, more cameras. Is it more like building more trust with the community? I think it was recently unveiled political candidate Desmond Crockle. I think he was quoted as saying something to the effect, Bermudians love to gossip, but they don't like to talk, right? We've got to move past this, because at the end of the day, you're speaking about people who have taken other people's lives, being amongst us at maybe it's cop match, county game, every day on the street. They could be going to work, but we can't continue down this road, because the more we do, the more others may think, well, no one's been charged for this, I can get away with it too, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure that people necessarily think they're going to get away with, because you've got a fairly good track record of catching and convicting people in the violent crime space, catching and convicting murders. There are a number of unsolved murders. I believe that number is up to 35 unsolved murders. But I think, if generally speaking, we do have a very good record. Again, I really do encourage the community to come forward. For us, fairness, accountability, and transparency, building trust within the community is absolutely important. And we do that by treating people fairly, by being accountable for our actions, putting our hands up when we've done things that we shouldn't do, we've got things wrong. Just generally being transparent. So technology obviously plays a role, and the new CCTV camera system, which is coming online, we're up to about 130 locations that have been installed already. And I think that's going to make a difference. But where crimes occur deep in residences, the cameras are more or less on the roadways, and then it helps us to understand or know who may have been traveling to or from. And, the CCTV system is going to be particularly useful. And also, don't forget, in the background, you've got a significant investigation that's going on, that's looking at the forensic opportunities, obviously trying to speak with people. And then, we have an intelligence section that is always gathering information about what's going on, and, in my words, sort of getting behind the people that are the highest harm causers in Bermuda.
Indeed. Thank you for that, Commissioner. Audience, if you have any questions or comments for Commissioner Saunders, please send them through. We'll do our best to get through as many questions and comments as possible. Just want to shift gears. Unfortunately, like last January, I believe we began the year with another road fatality involving a teenager. How many road fatalities did we have last year, and what is the main cause of these collisions?
Okay, so last year, actually interesting. Last year we had 7 fatalities. Now that is unusually low. For the past forever, we have been averaging about 1 a month. So to get 7 this year, I think it was good. The previous year, in 2023, there were 13, and in 2022 there were 11. Very tragic for the beginning of the year, very tragic loss of life for an 18-year-old. And again, I extend condolences on behalf of the Bermuda Police Service to that family, a young 18-year-old woman. What are the main causes of accidents? They vary. Speed, alcohol, drug, if I put that all in one, are probably sort of the main inattention are the main reasons. But generally speaking, it's going to be speed and alcohol. Often when you see an accident occur, a single vehicle accident at dark o'clock in the morning, very often that will be alcohol related. Accidents that are two vehicle accidents that occur during the day, very often, speed is involved.
Mm-hmm. And although the road fatalities were down, which we're grateful to hear, more of that, please. How about collisions? How are we looking for collisions?
So collisions, the actual numbers, the actual numbers of collisions, I think, are fairly static. That hovers around 1,500 a year. In 2024, which I have some statistics in front of me, in 2024, we had 126 serious collisions. In 2023, we had 124 serious collisions, and 2022, we had 132. So, in terms of raw or numbers, it's still averaging the same. We sort of, in policing, will say that a fatality is a serious collision with a fatal outcome. In other words, the point to take away with that is that every serious injury collision could result in a fatality. And it's things like advancement, going way back, like introduction of helmet laws, introduction of seatbelt laws, changes in engineering in terms of how vehicles are built. So it is much rarer to see a fatality from a car, whereas if you go back before when we didn't have seatbelt laws, that was more common. So there are a number of things that can occur to help reduce road fatalities, and they usually involve around engineering, education, and enforcement.
And I think you kind of answered my next question, because last year, and I don't know if the Bermuda Police Service keeps count, I don't know if the public does, but it seemed like we had an unusual high number.
It was 13 last year.
No, I mean of vehicles going overboard on harbor roads specifically. Right?
Yeah.
And
I mean,
speak to that. Yeah.
I don't. Okay, so I don't like, these more minor accidents. I don't necessarily follow them to conclusion in terms of what happened, but I've seen a number of accidents on straight roads where cars have just gone off the edge of the road. My gut feeling is that cell phone. Single vehicle, cars just don't drive off the road. Drivers that are looking forward, driving properly with the appropriate amount of attention, just don't go off a straight road into the water. But if your eyes are diverted and you're looking at a cell phone, that can happen, especially single vehicle. Cars just don't deviate into other lanes of traffic or just drive off the road. And my gut feeling is that is some of that, or much of that, is because people are, let's just say, distracted driving in, and probably it would be use of a cell phone.
Got you. Let's speak about, you mentioned causes, speed, alcohol, distractions, and the like. After the recent fatality involving a young lady, there was a news report that the conditions of the road may be playing a role. Obviously, that's not your department, to speak on the conditions of the roads. But it's one thing that I was used to when I lived in Bermuda. When I would ride my bike, I would always know where the potholes were. Like, I'm not making excuses for the state of the roads. I'm simply saying you would ride a bit slower. Well, if in fact the conditions of the road play a role, what would you say to people? Just slow down, or like, what would you say?
Yeah, you have to always drive within the distance you can see to be clear, and drive appropriate for the road conditions that are present. Whether that's the road surface, the weather conditions that are going to impact your ability to stop and turn. You need to be mindful of all those, of all those matters. I do appreciate the comments about our road conditions, particularly for cyclists. If a road, your tire, can sort of get stuck in a rut, and you're traveling at speed, or and when I say at speed, I don't necessarily mean speeding horrendously, but you're just traveling a little faster, or you are turning, that can create a problem.
Got you. Makes sense, Commissioner. You shared statistics on shootings and the havoc on our roads, but there's so many other things. I mean, people are still wondering how many firearms are on the streets, domestic violence, what are those stats and the like. But when you, as the Commissioner of Police, look at the statistics overall for the year in so many different aspects, what is the most concerning stat to you from what the Bermuda Police Service collected in 2024?
Well, I think for me, it without a doubt, is the number of murders. That is always concerning. I just think there are changes in our society that have been around now for a decade, 2 decades, in terms of people's attitudes around violence. We're seeing more of that. We see that play out with firearms, but we're also seeing that play out with bladed articles, knives, people stabbing each other, and that number has gone up significantly. Beyond that, interestingly, crime is at its lowest, when you look at the all crime index, but the reality is that doesn't necessarily mean much to everyday people. What really affects them, what really hits their psyche is, when we have violent crimes, and that has remained static for a long period of time, if not actually going up a bit, if not in numbers, just the nature of the crimes that are being committed. So that does cause me, some concern.
Indeed, got you. I know years ago, I believe it was former Commissioner of Police Corbishley mentioned something about there. I don't want to quote him wrong, but something about there aren't many firearms on the street, or there's same firearms being used. Could you give the public any confidence today that there are a smaller amount of firearms on the streets than maybe last year this time? Like, have the police been able to remove a large? Because I see in the news regularly there are situations where you're taking drugs and you're taking catching people with firearms. Can we be confident that there are less firearms, or that's, we can't really say?
So we have recovered quite a number of firearms. I believe that number is up to 10. I believe that number is up to 10. But the reality is we do see a lot of community firearms, so the same firearm being used multiple times. And this has been a historical pattern because, unlike many other countries, we tightly regulate the use of firearms, and without a doubt, categorically, because I know this could be a hot topic, firearm restriction is the best for Bermuda, just categorically. Mm-hmm. There are not a lot of firearms just by virtue of the fact that they're difficult to get, but it only takes a couple to really wreak the havoc that causes us concern in Bermuda. But I do not believe that there's and our sort of forensic results do not indicate that we are awash with firearms.
Gotcha. Thank you for that, Commissioner. Audience, if you have any questions or comments for Commissioner Simon, please send them through. Let's talk about numbers. I know that many of the services, the prisons, fire, police, regiment, everyone is in recruitment mode. There's the numbers. You've addressed this last year. Just remind people, based on Bermuda's population, how many police officers are required for the service to function as it needs to be? Where are we at as far as that number, and what's going on as far as recruitment at this current stage?
All right, first a little bunny trail to go down, because you said based on our population size, what are the numbers? So we're often compared with other jurisdictions with significantly larger numbers of people and obviously police. But when you look at the ratio to population to police, Bermuda and all of the smaller islands jurisdictions are going to have a higher number of a higher ratio of police to population. And that's because the real thing you need to look at is the types of services you want the Bermuda Police Service to deliver. So for example, if you would like to have a schools program, it doesn't, and there are 10 schools, it doesn't matter that your population is 30,000 or 100,000. You're going to still need a minimum amount of police officers to provide those services. So it's one of the things I just like to reframe, is that when you think about how many police officers you would like in Bermuda, I think the question to really ask is, what do you want the police officers to do? What services do you want them to deliver? Now, to actually answer your question, over a number of years ago, we agreed with a previous minister that the number 420 was a number that we could what we believe that we could meet the expectations of the community and deliver policing services. Today, as opposed to last year, we would have been down in the 360. We're now up at 385. 23 of those officers are actually in training school now. So they're not on the street delivering policing services, but that will be coming very, very soon. And we will be starting another course in April, which we hope to hit about another, 20, maybe just under 25. And then after that, there will be another course in November, let's say, where we'll have another group of 25, or whatever that number is, to get us to the 420 that we are pushing for a budget. Yeah, so that's about where we are today. Today we're at 385.
385. All right. Thank you for that, Commissioner. We've got some questions from the audience. Start with Shamari Sky. He says, so many shootings have happened on the same street where police headquarters is located. So how can Bermudians have confidence that the police can keep the island safe when they can't keep their front yards safe?
Yeah, very good question. And we used to get that same kind of question when the St. George's police station, was in St. George's. Just up the street from was St. George's Liquors, and there forever were problems there. The reality is we police the entire island, and the same coverage that there is on Court Street, for example, is other places. So we don't necessarily treat the front of the police station, or the environs near the police station any differently than we do the rest of the island. The same. During a night shift, for example, the same 4 to 6 officers are patrolling the entire Central Division, and not just right in front of the station.
Indeed. Thank you for that. We've got, I think I'll read it from the side. When will you remove the cameras off Loyal Hill? Can we carefully take them down for you if that is easier? No fees, no charges. We can personally drop the cameras off so they can get there safely. That's from Suzanne Ingham. I did ask you about CCTV earlier. I may differ with a lot of people. My life is surveilled. My car, I have cameras. In my apartment, I have cameras. That's just how I live, to protect myself as well. But what's the challenge with CCTV?
Well, let me speak directly to Loyal Hill. So I've spent some time up in Loyal Hill, just trying to share with the area residents, what the cameras can do, what they're looking at, and why they're there. I do. It's interesting because this will now be my fourth, maybe fifth, major iteration of CCTV, and I've been there from the very beginning around the Bermuda's adoption of CCTV, and I can tell you overwhelmingly, I want cameras in my area. So it was a bit odd that a particular group of residents are saying, no, we don't want cameras. I want to speak to that, just specifically. Loyal Hill wasn't in our previous wasn't a previous location because it didn't need it. But over time, and as a result of what we see criminals and the routes that they get to and from areas, Loyal Hill, that junction there became an ideal location, and hence why that camera's there. I did go up and meet with the residents, and one of the things that we've done is I'm not sure what the right word is, but shaded or obscured elements of the camera so they don't see the yards, and that they really are just looking at the roadway, the junction that's there. So I do want to address that point. I appreciate the concerns that people might have. That camera in Loyal Hill not only serves Loyal Hill, but it serves all the crime, all of the community who may experience crime as a result of criminals traversing that area. And if over a period of time we see that camera is not, we're not getting information or value from that camera, we would move it. But we are a little way from making that kind of assessment. And then you asked me, sorry, what was the next question?
Yeah, just ask me your overall feeling about CCTV, making a difference.
I think CCTV is a critical crime fighting tool. Most modern or developed countries have far more extensive CCTV systems that Bermuda does. We're getting there. We're able to implement some of the later technologies in terms of higher pixel cameras to give us the resolution, so we don't necessarily just see a blob that looks like a person on a bike, but we're able to identify make and model, and particularly maybe during the day. We would be able to identify actual people as a result of that. But it gives us tremendous situational awareness and it gives us tremendous, because people have to get to and from crimes, right? The cameras don't always, if you're in the city center, yes, it might catch a crime, but generally speaking, it's going to catch people going to or from that crime. And because the CCTV is fairly extensive, you can maybe follow them back to near where they live, or the point where they went to after a commission of crime, or even came from on the way to committing a crime. So I think it is a game changer, and I think it's absolutely necessary. It helps to reduce the total cost of policing and provides better coverage of the island than simple people can do. And that's from a criminal perspective, also from a traffic perspective, because that we are slowly moving towards sort of speed cameras. We could potentially have red light detection cameras, speed over distance kind of cameras. And I think once that level of enforcement is in Bermuda, it will have an impact on driver behavior. So I talked about the numbers of fatalities are generally around that, one per month, but there's I wouldn't be able to convince anyone that driver behavior just hasn't gotten poor over time. Like, just everybody's driving behavior. People are not driving as safely. They're not driving as the level of care, caution, and courtesy as we did in years gone by. And I think some of this just broad spread enforcement is going to require people to change their driving behavior. So I think it is an absolute game changer, and I'm grateful for the government for having provided the funding to move that forward.
Indeed. Thank you, Commissioner. We've got Michael Daniels asking, when recruiting, do you have a realistic idea of the size of the pool you're drawing from?
You mean, okay, so I'm presuming it means like a local pool. I actually, as I sit here, I couldn't tell you. There are, maybe a couple of thousand, 3,000-4,000 of people that might be, able to consider the BPS as a viable career. But what I can tell you is that everybody's fishing from that same pond, right? There are not enough people to support. There are not enough, certainly aren't enough Bermudians, and there aren't enough even local people to support all the jobs that need to be done. Hence, we have to go overseas. And, traditionally, not everybody, thinks that a career in policing is necessarily for them. I disagree, but call me biased. I've been at this for 30 plus years, and I absolutely love my job. I tell the story all the time. Like, when I became a new recruit early on the days, I just the feeling I had is like, I can't believe they pay me to do this. I mean, I just absolutely love it. I think it's exciting, and if more people actually gave it a shot, I think more people would realize, hey, I really do enjoy this, and I find it rewarding. That's the other thing. It was fun, Don't get me wrong, it was absolutely fun, but it was also rewarding. When you know that you are making a difference in people's lives, when life has just hit the deck and skidded, things have come unraveled. I know. I just thought that is tremendously rewarding, and you sort of help more people than you're involved in, arresting, prosecuting, et cetera, et cetera.
Indeed.
So if I could get in a little plug. Shameless.
One last question from the audience. We've got Traveling Trotty. She's asking, when will the police cadet program be reinstalled?
So I get that question a lot. And I get that question a lot. What the ministry is looking at is a ministry-wide cadet program. So it may be where the regiment does the day-to-day program, and then as the program develops, each of call them cadets, because they could be older individuals that were also helping to get over the bar in terms of the academic piece. But the cadets would go around from uniform service to uniform service and be able to see, well, what is it that this uniform service does versus the other, and then maybe form a more informed view about where they would like to apply, where they would like to end up. So that program is still in development. As it relates to a specific police cadet program, obviously I want to see what the ministry-wide one looks like. And when we're fully staffed, then I would be able to actually give some meaningful thought about, do we want to do this? Is the other program working or not? Or just, have some conversations. But the driver right now around the cadet program is just the amount of staffing that it takes, which is not huge. It's 2s and 3s, but that makes a massive difference in terms of our resource allocation today. And the other thing is, the cadet program kind of waned. It was beyond me, but why parents didn't, they weren't just lined up, because the cadet program was amazing. One, it gave you, we paid for your education, we gave you life skills, and we also paid you a stipend. I was surprised at the end we were just not overrun as the program sort of came to an end. We just weren't. One of the reasons was people just weren't signing up for it. It was, I just didn't understand. I quite frankly didn't understand that. But suffice that to say that, the Ministry of National Security, call it cadet program, is still in development. And I think that's going to meet the same or similar needs. And, maybe there'll be an opportunity to reassess and review that if it's meeting our needs in the future.
Indeed. Commissioner, last question before you head out. What would you say to the Bermudian people based on the 2024 statistics and looking ahead to 2025? What would you say to them as far as helping them gain confidence in the Bermuda Police Service?
So I think, we what's really important to us are things like fairness, accountability, transparency, integrity. You've seen a lot of, news about the police play itself out in the news. It's a bit redundant. But we are, some of that is just like, we released the culture review, for example. That is about us trying to be inform the public about what's going on, their police service, demonstrate accountability and demonstrate transparency for the things you've done. You've seen a number of disciplinary cases play themselves out, and you're going to see some more. I'm not going to shy away from that. That's us ensuring that our organization is filled with people that are doing the right thing. That's us looking for when officers aren't doing the things that they should be doing, responding to complaints and following them through to completion. When you look at our track record around catching and convicting, I think that's a record. Well, it is a record that I'm proud of, like the number of criminals that we catch and convict relative to the crime that's being committed. We're putting a lot of energy, last year and we will continue into this year, into improving our response around domestic abuse. So, a couple of years ago, I just sort of looked under the covers, under the rug, about how we were responding with domestic abuse. And one of the things that victims of domestic abuse were saying is that, we weren't necessarily empathetic enough. They didn't understand all that was involved in the process. And we're putting energy into educating our officers about like trauma-informed service delivery, standardizing our response to domestic abuse, maintaining good contacts with our partners to ensure that we're getting feedback from them and victims themselves, and responding to those initial times where people are saying, hey, you got it wrong, or hey, you should have done it differently, and just being more proactive in that, or just some of, off the top of my head, reasons why people should have faith and trust in their Bermuda Police Service. Go back to the culture review. So the culture review was if I have to be absolutely candid, was a little bit of a mixed bag. But one of the things that just was resounding is overwhelmingly officers are proud to work in the Bermuda Police Service, feel like they belong, and they're proud to deliver the service that they're delivering. Was, for me, on the positive side, some of the key takeaways. So you've got people that love what they do, love the organization they're part of, and are delivering that service to a community that needs it. And I think that is a recipe for success.
Indeed. And thank you for touching on the cultural review. It's definitely been in the news as of late. And I had someone reach out to me and say that the Bermuda Police Service, regardless of the result, has set a standard in transparency as far as, quangos and government departments and organizations. So again, for me, it's not about what's going to make us look good, right? It should be about what can we learn to improve for the people who we serve. So we appreciate you being transparent and sharing that stuff. Commissioner, thank you so much for your time this morning. We appreciate you. One last question. I did kind of tell you, we have one asked, but it came through from Rosalind Famous. She's asking, would it be helpful to have more forensic staff living on the island to help solve murders?
Absolutely. Obviously you must know someone, right? Because when you've used the word forensic, our forensic capacity is not at all where it is. I will be writing to the government to just civilianize that department. And one of the things I think will be important for Bermuda to hear is, very often there are not people that you don't just graduate from Bermuda College and you're a forensic specialist. It requires specialist training, and that training is kind of long and kind of expensive. And that has been a bit of a hurdle around why we've not been able to recruit locally for forensic officers. However, with the change that I'm making, I'm creating posts for call them a junior forensic officer, that our intention is to see how that person works, see what their attitude and aptitude for that kind of work is, and progress them to the not full-time, but the full forensic officer position. So that's a commitment that I have to Bermuda, if you'd like, that we are going to create a pathway for people who are interested, have the right attitude and the aptitude to do that kind of work, to progress them into that department.
Gotta appreciate that attitude and aptitude. Commissioner, thank you.
Attitude is huge for me.
Yeah.
Huge. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's what the public need and want. That can only help the relationship between the people and the service. Thank you so much for your time. We'd love to have you quarterly, but you're busy. But thank you for making time for this audience and making time for us to have these direct conversations with us, and just keep us informed. If there's anything, whether it's recruitment or things that are changing within the service, please just reach out. Let us know what we can do with this platform to assist and keep the positivity regarding the safety of our greater community front and center. So thank you, Commissioner.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Hartman, for having me. And I want to wish the whole of Bermuda a happy and safe 2025. All the best.
Thank you much. We'll talk soon. All right, Commissioner Darrin Simons, folks, if you appreciated the conversation this morning, please give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. Make sure you share the conversation with your friends, your family, your colleagues. We're going to take one final break. We'll be back in about 1 minute, 40 seconds. Stick with us.